What is the meanest thing a family member has ever done to you? My sister, the golden child, is demanding I give her my wedding venue, and to make matters worse, my parents are on her side. It all started last week at a family BBQ. My parents hosted it, and in the middle of the festivities, my sister announced her pregnancy. Everyone was thrilled for her, of course, but then she dropped the bombshell. She asked me, right in front of everyone, if she could use my wedding venue for her wedding. She thought it was beautiful and claimed she couldn't plan her own right now. This venue wasn't just any venue. It was the place my fiancé and I had been waiting 3 years to book. Our wedding was just a few months away. Everyone expected me to say yes, but I stood firm. I told her, as much as I loved her, she wasn't getting my venue. She burst into tears and stormed off. My nan immediately chastised me, calling me selfish for not giving up the venue to my sister. I tried to defend myself, but my mother jumped in saying, "You waited 3 years. Would it have killed you to wait a few more months? When has your sister ever asked you for something?" My fiancé, visibly angry, and I left the BBQ before he lost his cool. Later, my sister called me, crying about how it was unfair that I always got what I wanted and how I should have done this one thing for her. Her husband even called to apologize for the inconvenience, telling me he had discussed it with my sister and she had promised not to ask. He was furious with her and warned me that she was blaming me for potentially ruining her marriage. The next day, my father sent me multiple texts, all saying things like, "I hope you're happy. Your sister hasn't stopped crying since yesterday." My fiancé and I decided to boot my sister from the bridal party and replace her with my aunt, the only family member who took my side. We weren't sure if we'd invite my family at all. Things took a turn for the worse when my mother called my fiancé's parents, suggesting it would be best if my sister got the venue because she was pregnant. My future father-in-law told her to F off and tore into her for expecting something so ridiculous, warning that they were going to lose me if they kept playing favorites. Now, my mom was crying, calling him a butt-face, and the whole situation started to feel like a bad soap opera. Thankfully, my in-laws were incredibly supportive. They drove over with supper and wine, assuring me that no matter what, they would be my safety net. But the drama didn't end there. My sister kept berating me about the venue, claiming I was being unfair. She sent me a huge text about how families should have each other's backs, and I replied with a long message detailing every instance of her selfishness and how I had always been her doormat. I told her I was done, and that if she wanted to get married before her baby was born, she could find another venue. She responded with a sarcastic, "Wow, you must love me so very much," and blocked me. The next morning, she unblocked me to send me a message from a wedding planner claiming she was rebooking the venue under her name. My parents hadn't contacted me since the incident with my father-in-law, so I was skeptical. I called the planner, who assured me she had never spoken to my mother and that any changes would require my presence. We informed everyone working on our wedding and even hired security for the day at a reduced price. The online harassment for my sister continued. She posted passive-aggressive remarks on Facebook, claiming I had made her depressed. Her friends sent me nasty messages, and one even egged my car. I called the police, and my nosy but lovely neighbor identified them. My parents finally called, asking if we could talk things out. When they arrived, my mom had clearly been crying, and for a moment I felt bad. But as we talked, it became clear they were still siding with my sister. My father went on about family sacrifices and making each other happy, to which I retorted with examples of their blatant favoritism. They were horrified when I listed every instance of them putting my sister before me. I gave them an ultimatum: either set up family counseling and apologize, or they wouldn't be invited to the wedding. They left and didn't call back. After that, my sister's harassment escalated, and I had to block her and change my number. The stress was immense, but my fiancé, his family, and my brother supported me. A few days before the wedding, my nan came over, apologizing and asking to be allowed at the wedding. I agreed, but our relationship wasn't the same. The wedding day was magical despite the drama. My friends and I were taking pictures when my sister's car approached. She started screaming at me, blaming me for her fiancé breaking up with her. She even tried to throw mud at me, but my maid of honor tackled her into the flowers. Security removed her, and I finally had enough to file a restraining order. The rest of the day was perfect. I married my best friend, my brother walked me down the aisle, and the celebrations were filled with joy and laughter. We went on our honeymoon and decided to move to a new city for a fresh start. Shortly after, I found out I was pregnant, a classic honeymoon baby. My sister, meanwhile, was still blaming me for her broken engagement and refusing to work, living with my exhausted parents. I'm happy now, despite losing part of my family. Cutting out toxic people was the best decision I could have made.